What did Marty Friedman recently say on ROCK FUJIYAMA that caught my attention? What's Wolf's philosophy on achieving success in the new music industry? All this and more on the latest iteration of the monthly 2022 edition of the New Music Industry Podcast.
You're listening to the New Music Industry with David Andrew Wiebe.
Okay, hello and welcome to the show. I'm David Andrew Wiebe, and I'm joined as always by my new co-host, Wolf, also known as Wolf the Original Creative, also known as Wolfgang.
Yeah.
How's it going, Wolf?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, I always wondered, why is it the Original Creative?
Yes, great question. I love it. So I call myself Wolf the Original Creative because firstly, I'm original. I'm creative. It's really that simple. And I just feel like nowadays there's a lot of people that lack originality. Not everyone, but there are a lot of people trying to be a copycat, like a sheep in a herd. I'm just like, yeah, I'm definitely not one of them. I'm more of a lone wolf. Yeah, it just works that way, doesn't it? But
your name is Wolf and you're a lone wolf.
Yep. Yeah. Don't get it twisted. It's the truth. So it just kind of works out. And I've always been creative, music and other creative mediums as well. So it just made perfect sense to me, Wolf the Original Creative. And I quite like that that's a bit of a mouthful as well, because everything is watered down or shortened. And
it's true.
Yeah. So I like it.
Yeah. But you're like a smart guy. You're an ambitious guy. You're actually quite talented in digital advertising and that whole realm. So it's going to be exciting to see, what both of us can bring to this table, obviously, but I'm excited to hear what you're going to bring. So, but what's new in your world, Wolf? What's happening these days?
Lots of things.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So I'll start with this. I run a company called Gaki Music that's based here in London in the UK. Mm-hmm. We do a number of things. We work with artists on an in-house basis, and we're currently looking for new artists. So if you think you've got talent and you've got potential and you're ambitious, definitely contact us here at Gaki Music. You can find us on gakimusic.com. So GAKI music.com. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things we do with Gaki Music. But we also actually offer music production services, video production services as well. So, and consultancy. And we do have a couple of info products for anyone who wants to get them, but we'll talk more about that later.
Absolutely. We'll get into that as well. And of course, people will probably know me from Music Entrepreneur HQ. We're doing some major overhauls over there. So there's a lot of exciting and new things to come. This podcast with Wolf being one of them, right? This is a really interesting and fun new development that we've put into place for this year. And, I'm working earnestly on my music career, which is why we're not doing, weekly episodes. I'm still publishing daily over at davidandrewwiebe.com. So nobody's going to be without their daily fill of David if they want it and need it. Right. At the same time, it really gives us space, and space is important. Space to concentrate on the things that you want to work on and need to work on right now. And one of those things is my music career. Like I said, really getting back into that. And I think this podcast will be an excellent opportunity to document and share some of how that's been going, especially since it's a monthly update. It's like there's actually going to be things to talk about. You give a little bit of a space of a few weeks in there. And then, I'm just going to put this out there too, that musicentrepreneurhq.com is currently looking for an interim content marketing, chief marketing officer opportunity. And this is a revenue share opportunity. It's not a full-time position or anything of the sort, but it is a long-term commitment, and there is a weekly commitment to it as well. And I just wanted to put that out there because you just never know who might be listening that might be the right fit. And that's what's new in my world. So I don't want to take up too much space or time with my rambling, but yeah, just like you, Wolf, lots going on over here.
Awesome.
So there's a few things we wanted to dive into today in terms of topics, and something that you brought up, or really a couple of things that you brought up, but maybe we'll start here, The secret is there is no secret. What does this mean for artists and us music entrepreneurs?
It's very simple. And that's part of the biggest problem. It is actually extremely simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. So when I say the secret is there's no secret, it's literally that.
Right.
You have to put in what you need to put in to get out what you want to get out. So if you're putting in minimum effort, inconsistency, and lack of commitment, you're not going to get anything decent out of that. But if you're putting in a good amount of effort, you're constantly learning, improving upon what you've done, learning from your mistakes, you're going to get a lot more out of that. And also with it makes me laugh because I've seen this so many times. It blows my mind, right? With music, it's very simple. It takes time. And now when you say that people think, oh, it's going to take like 5 minutes because now everyone's Epicurean these days, right? It takes years. It takes decades. Yes, it can be done in a shorter period of time than that. That's true. But how sustainable is that? How much longevity does that have? Probably not very much. Something that most people that are listening, or if not all people that are listening, will find very familiar, the saying of one-hit wonder or overnight success, these sorts of things. People like that who you hear of and they're really, really hyped about for a really short period of time, and then they just disappear, almost like they disappear off the face of the earth. There's a good reason why that happens, because they've not done the fundamental things to guarantee a sustainable career. They try to do a shortcut or, hack the system or something, and then they appear, but they disappear just as quickly as they've appeared. That's not really what people want. And you have to work in a different way if you don't want to achieve that. So it's about laying the foundation. And there should be, well, in my opinion, there should be that kind of grit in the process, That should be where the character is built. Like it shouldn't be a slow process. Like it shouldn't be a fast process, sorry. It should take that time to really, really make sure that foundation is solid and set. So when you build upon it, it doesn't crumble. We're all familiar with building on sand versus building on a solid piece of ground. You want to make sure that foundation is set. And really and truly, that takes at least a few years, 2-3 years, just to even know yourself enough, that as you're growing and developing, you establish that basis to build upon, right? I worked at Sony, and there was an artist, a very, very well-known artist, who the label was developing for 2-3 years, right? He later went on to win a Brit Award and different things. But even with the backing of a major label, because Sony's the second biggest music company in the world at the time of recording this, right? It still took 2 to 3 years with the major budgets, with the expertise, with the resource, with all these things, right? So most independent artists don't even have that amount of resource and reach and team and expertise behind them. And they're expecting in what time frame? That's, to be honest, very delusional. So if you think it works like that, then you should, pack your musical suitcase and sit back down and just try something else, because you're really just fooling yourself and you're setting yourself up for disappointment if you think that trying to do the shortcuts and trying to hack the system is going to work. This is not like servers in the 90s. You can't just hack it and get on with your day. So yeah, you just have to put in the work. That's it. You put in the work, learn, know the right people, meet the right people, keep on doing the right thing for a sustained period of time, and it'll work for you. That's it. Like, obviously there's more detail to it, but that is fundamentally it. And there's no secret there.
The thing that occurred to me, and it sounds like I'm going to go off the rails, but trust me, I will bring it back, is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, right? Everybody knows that in the introduction, he talks about a secret. And if you get this secret, you'll be astounded by its simplicity and effectiveness. Those weren't the exact words, but you know what I'm saying. And so everybody always reads the book thinking they got the secret, they know the secret. And if you Google it, it's like everybody's answer is a little different. Some people actually do say the secret is there is no secret. My contention is still that that was actually removed from the book, just so that the general public would never have access to this brilliant secret that Napoleon Hill discovered. But even so, as applied to what you're saying there, what are artists pursuing, right? They're looking for the latest Spotify exploit. And I still wonder, right? Like I kind of bristle at it a little bit because I'm like, it's Spotify and you're going to get 0.003 cents per stream or whatever it is. And so even if you do manage to, boost your monthly listens or do kind of a short-term burst, is it going to last? And how much is that really going to add up to in the grand scheme of things? If like 1 month you make 3,000 and the next month, which actually takes a ton of streams, by the way, and then the next month you're down to, $100 again. So these Spotify algorithm exploits, I feel like there's better things you could be doing with your time and your energy. And that's another big thing, right? Like you said, you want to go out there, you want to shake hands, you want to make connections, you want to build your network, you want to play shows, you want to get on the radio, not just like get on a playlist, right? That's not the beginning and the end of a music career these days. So yeah, I don't think it's reasonable to have any expectation that you're just gonna blow up in a moment, and even if you do, it might not last, right?
And patience, that word that most people have forgotten, patience. We're not talking about the Take That song, we're talking about the actual word patience, right?
Yeah.
There's just a gross lack of patience. There just really is everywhere.
Yeah. And it really goes hand in hand with the next thing that you mentioned, which is the shortcut to success is the long road. So these two things kind of go together in your world, right? Like they're interlinked as a philosophy. The shortcut to success is the long road. So, I mean, I've heard it put this way, that like most people will take a long circuitous route to get there, right? And maybe even you were the one to say this, but like the successful people who get there faster are the ones that zig and zag instead of going into a big long circuitous route. They're able to keep it a little bit tighter, but they still end up wandering off track all the time. So it's basically inevitable that you are going to wander off track.
It can be. And I could talk about this all day. So, but the reason why I say the shortcut to success is a long road is because when you actually do all the right things for a sustained period of time consistently, that is very efficient. That is very efficient. Of course, you're going to continue to improve, but that will cut off so much time off reaching the point you want to reach and getting to where you want to go as quickly as possible, compared to, and this is what most people do, they work really hard in bursts of energy, like putting in 110%. And then because, in an instant period or in a very, very short period after they've put in all that effort, they don't see exactly what they want to see, like, the millions of people following them, the hundreds of thousands plus in their bank account. They become very demotivated. And then they say, oh, it's not working for me, and lament. And all that consistency and momentum that they had built up and all the energy they were putting in when they were putting in 110%, they discontinue, they stop it, complete halt, right? And they may lament for a few weeks, a few days, a few months, a few years. And then they say, and then something usually external sparks their passion again, and they say, oh, I'm going to do it this time, I'm going to make it happen. And then they literally do the same thing over again. Yeah, 110% for a short burst of time, then get disappointed in the outcome, not being some instant overnight success or something, then lament for another prolonged period, and then do that again. This could literally go on for decades. This could go on for years or decades, compared to if they'd just done the laborious kind of consistent effort without all those pauses, they would have been where they wanted to be years before. That's why I say it really is, like, the shortcut really is the long road, because no one wants to slog it out for all that time consistently seeing almost no fruits of their labor. It's very, very demotivating. But those who are really, in my opinion, those who are really committed, serious, and passionate, and are really, really do want it, they will take that and go through that, even when seeing little, tangible reward, like in the form of money or adoring fans flocking to you. They will actually go through that and stick to it, even in the hard times. And yeah, that's coming from the point of choice. But there may be times where people are consistent, but then something happens in their life that throws them off course, like a personal thing or something, and then they come back to it and then do that. Those things can't be controlled, and so yeah, but it can lead to this start-stop pattern as well, which is unfortunate because it's outside of your control. But even if something like that happened, not every single time it's something like that. You know what I mean? Think of how many times you've paused because it's been in your control and you didn't have to pause, but you did, compared to how many times it was outside of your control. Usually it's more times it is in your control. So that can be changed.
Something I'm hearing there is sustainability, right? We are one of the hardest working industries there is. And so we know artists that take this seriously often are pulling pretty crazy schedules. I've looked at posts on like DIY musician blog, and I've seen that some musicians are like, yeah, I start my day at 6 and then I do an interview at 7 and then I songwrite at 8, and their whole day till like midnight or 1 a.m. is packed. And I mean, you still have to look honestly at what that's doing for you. Are you actually concentrating and doing the right things? And second of all, if you're only able to do that in short bursts, it's inevitable that the tortoise is going to overtake the hares, right? It happens every time. So if you're not able to keep going while others are, gunning right behind you to take over, then you're not in a position to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that are there, because you're going to be burnt out. And then there's medical bills and vacations and whatever else you might have to spend money on to get yourself back to where you were before. Loss of income can be a big one in that category too. So it's like consistency and sustainability. It doesn't mean that you're not going to, give some short bursts of like high impact, high energy work. But it does mean that making sure you're in a condition and you're in a state to be able to continue to contribute and bring yourself to your career such that you can still do a great job. I know from having done some of this myself recently that if you come to the studio tired and you're about to sing, you're not going to get the best performance. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so, so true. And might I add as well, this is not at the expense of self-care. Everyone needs to, look after themselves, look after their physical health, look after their mental and emotional health, spiritual health, all of the health. So that is a must, in my opinion. And then also, it's like, how efficient and effective is your work when you're doing it, right?
Exactly.
You gave a great example. You went to the studio when you were a bit tired and it wasn't 100%. Whereas if you were well rested, aka self-care, everyone slips up here and there, but just generally speaking, it could really, really just make it more efficient,
Yeah.
So being really mindful and intentional about what level is your work at when you're putting in the work as well. So it's like, if every time it's 20%, like 20% is very low. Yeah. But if you're doing a 16-hour day at 20%, what are you really doing? You're better off doing like a 6-hour day at 100%, right? And being more effective in less amount of time, right? And that will move you forward more. And you can look after yourself and do the right thing. Because if you're doing all the right things in a consistent way, so let's say you say, cool, I'm going to dedicate 24 hours in a week to music purely. Let's say you have a part-time job or other work or something, but you say, I'm committed to this without fail, 24 hours in a week. That's not that long in the grand scheme of things, right? That's like a social media addiction habit, or, or like, watching TV or playing on the video games or something, right? That's a reasonable amount of time. But if you're really dedicated and 100% in that time and you just did that consistently, that will be way better for you than if you had like 16-hour days, 6 days a week of like minimum 20% efforts. It's like, really add it up and consider, right? Maybe it's worth looking at putting in less time, but more effective time of the time you do put in, because that could actually really, really help, and then build that back up. So let's say it's at 24 hours in a week, and then you say 28, then 32, then 40, then 50 or something, just to get into the habit of high efficiency, then work it like that. And then as you see things improve, you start to see the tangible fruits of your labor. It's gonna make you feel good. So there's something called the confidence cycle, where it's like the more competent you become, the more confident you are, and then it just cycles. So you continue to become more confident and competent.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a virtuous cycle. Exactly. And I was going to add something to that point too, which was basically that, on days when I feel tired, I know there's this conversation I need to have or this phone call I need to make, and it's a difficult one. So when I'm feeling tired, I don't know if anybody else experiences this, but when I'm feeling tired or just not at my best, I'm resisting having that conversation. Whereas if I wake up well rested, feeling good, had a little bit of caffeine, not too much, I'm going to be far more likely to want to make that call, even though it's still going to be uncomfortable and it's still going to be difficult. I'm still more likely to make that call well rested than I am when I'm tired.
Exactly. It really does feed into the other things, and it compounds as well, which is a mathematical principle where it's like your rate of growth continues to increase. So if that was a numerical sequence, a compounding situation would be like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. And the rate of growth is actually increasing. It could be in different intervals, whereas linear growth is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like you just continue to count. Jini-san, Yongoroku, Nanahachi, Kyojin. Like, whichever way. And so, you want to compound your efforts as opposed to like just to be on a linear growth curve.
I read a blog post about leverage years and years ago, and I want to say it was Derek Severs, but I can't find it. If anybody listening knows the post that I'm talking about, please send it to me. It might have even been Steve Pavlina, but it was just incredible. It just pointed out like you can take what you've got and you can profit on it time and time again. And I don't just mean monetarily, right? You can take something that you've already created and use it in tons of different ways. And nowhere is that more true than in music. Music can be used in promotions and commercials and advertising and films and TV and YouTube videos, as lyric videos, as music videos. There's so much potential in how to use one song. If you're just really clever and smart about how you go about it, you can get so much leverage out of one piece, which isn't to say new is not important, because I think people, if you're going to create something that's an improvement on what you got versus something new, people always tend towards the new. They want something new. So if you're trying to debate between whether to create something new or improve what you've already got, generally create something new. But just understanding that one song, one EP, one performance even has the potential to be multiple things, not just one occurrence, I think is still lost on many artists.
Definitely. And to be honest, put that down to mindset in a really big way. And that may just sound a bit like, oh no, it is. Both you and I, we're very much into personal development, reading personal development books, business books, and this sort of thing. And something that I've seen is that there's not really much in the way of personal development in the music industry. It's not really spoken about so much within this niche. In other niches, you hear about it all the time, like marketing. You hear Gary Vee talking about that. Property, you hear Grant Cardone talking about that. You hear different influences in different spaces. And yeah, there are a few people coming up here and there in the music industry talking about personal development a little bit more, but it's not really something that's spoken about too much. Like, at all. And I really do feel it should be. And one of the things in personal development, a principle that's spoken about a lot, is to be able to some of the stuff that we've mentioned and just putting in the work, being efficient, working on your craft, constant improvement, constant learning and growth, like personal growth, reading, feeding your mind. This kind of stuff it's key, because this, when I first heard of this, it really just, it was like crazy. It was like, wow, my mind is blown. Although it was such a simple principle, it's like, if you put in an amount of effort, right, but you put it in at the same level of knowledge that you've been at, it's probably not going to make too much of a difference. Whereas if you put the same amount of energy, but you've read stuff, you've read things, you've learned things, you've educated yourself, self-education, not academic education, that same amount of energy and effort would yield so much more, because you've empowered yourself by additional knowledge, and the golden nuggets you get from personal development is going to refine your approach. It's going to have this effect that's just going to increase your efforts. It's crazy, and I found that in my own experience that it's true, and you just have to try it to believe it, really.
Yeah. I see myself as someone who's constantly on the hunt for new treasures, and I bring them back to the podcast like this and share them with people. But sometimes I just wonder, like, am I way early to the curve to this thing? Because I feel like I was talking about music and personal development as early as 2007, and I could be mistaken. It might have been 2009, but that's just a 2-year difference, right? So I've been on it for a little over 10 years already, sharing about what I was discovering and why personal development matters. And, look, it's not about just having a positive attitude, and it's not just about working long, hard hours. You're going to come away with that impression if you kind of read the wrong books. Even I was sort of in that delusion of, oh, I just need to have a positive attitude and work long, hard hours. And that's not the way it works. I think, but mindset is real. You said it well. It's really summarized in that statement, in that word. Really, it's mindset. How do we look at things? How do we think about things? You're in the right mindset if you're planning for worst case scenarios. You're in the wrong mindset if you think everything you do is going to be great because you have a great attitude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's literally that kind of thing. And yes, things that are bad, they happen.
Yes.
And yes, thinking everything's going to be great is unrealistic and, and can be quite delusional as well. But I feel like the best of both worlds is somewhere between that. Knowing that things aren't going to always go to plan, but hoping for the best. But what really glues it together in such an effective way is going on, So Churchill said it very well. He said, I'm gonna probably butcher this, but he basically said, you get to success when you go from failure to failure without lacking enthusiasm.
Great enthusiasm.
so,
yeah.
so that kind of embodies it all, saying like, we know bad things are gonna happen. We're gonna keep on trying. We hope for the best, but we're gonna keep on going with a smile on our face so we can be enthusiastic. So I truly believe that that's really where it's at. But like when knowing and not necessarily like planning for the worst, but like knowing that it won't be good, but having a way to tackle it when it comes up is way better than thinking everything's going to always be rosy.
Mm-hmm.
Because approaching things in that way, and trust me, I've done that, it is way more painful when things don't go to plan and they aren't so rosy, because it's shocking as well. You're like, but how can't it be always pleasant all the time, right? That may sound like super crazy and completely naive, but I've literally been there. I was the optimist. You see, when they say rose-colored glasses, that was me. Rose-colored like contact lenses glued onto my eyeballs forever. It was more like that than just the glasses. So trust me, I've been there. But it's good to really just not expect the worst, but know it's not going to be perfect all the time, but be prepared for when it's not, and keep on going, whether it's, a positive outcome or a negative outcome, or you just keep on going regardless. It's like, if you want to go we have Tesco, you lot have like different things like Walmart or whatever, wherever, what part of the world you're in. If you're going to your shop, you know, and you want to go get a bottle of milk from the cow or from the oat, yeah, you,
Yeah.
whether it's raining or sunny or snowing, you're going to go get it because you've decided to go and get it. So really the external environment shouldn't affect the outcome of your action. Do you know what I mean? Like whether it's sold out in the shop or not, you've still done your part. You've taken the action to go get it, whether it's been sunny or snowing or raining or whatever. And it really just should be like that in your journey, in your musical journey. You take the action, whether the shop is fully stocked or not, whether it's raining or sunny. that's really it.
Well, to your point, yeah, John Maxwell basically said, fail forward, never fail backwards, always fail forward. Yeah. You know, Werner Erhard, he says, all accomplishment is a function of resolved breakdowns. So breakdowns that have been resolved create accomplishment.
That's very deep.
Yeah.
That's cool as well. I like it.
The Unstarving Musician podcast, hosted by Robunzo, features interviews with independent music artists who share their experience and expertise on recording, touring, getting gigs, the creative process, marketing, and more. It's a podcast intended to help independent music artists better understand the marketing, business, and creative processes that empower us to do more of what we love, make music. Find it at unstarvingmusician.com and wherever you get your favorite audio. But you offered a good segue here because you talked about mindset. And so I might as well take it. You know, I was watching ROCK FUJIYAMA recently. And so for people who don't know, this is a Japanese program and now YouTube channel, essentially. I'm really happy that they revived it as a YouTube show because I loved the original series where they had, you know, Kerry King and Dragon Force and other people on there. But the main guy on there, not the host, but, you know, the star of the show was Marty Friedman of Megadeth. And, you know, for people who followed him, they know that he fell in love with Japanese culture and Japanese music. He loved how free it was, that he loved how genres didn't have such, you know, hard dividing lines like they tend to do in North America, where you're either pop or you're rock or you're folk or you're, you know, in Japan, you can mix things together. And it can be a really beautiful fusion of different things. So this TV show is effectively tailor-made for him. In a recent episode on the YouTube channel, and bear in mind, this is in Japanese, but he basically made the statement that all successful rock musicians, or practically all successful rock musicians, are business-minded or have a business mindset. I think that's super validating for what we're doing. But what are your thoughts on this, Wolf?
I wouldn't disagree, to be honest. Like, I'd say, and I really like rock music. I'm a big fan of rock music. I've liked it since I was young and growing up. You know, it's very solid. And just funnily enough, it's called rock. But a beautiful thing about it is I feel like it's held some of the best parts of the traditional music industry, and I think it's kept to its roots in a way that, I don't know, it just really embodies successful business practice. You know what I mean? Like, even now, at the time of this podcast being recorded, we're in 2022. Like, rock music, aside from, you know, global circumstances, can still sell tickets to events.
Yeah.
It can still sell merch to customers. It can still sell CDs, you know, and physical music formats. It can still do a lot of that stuff, right? And you could probably walk down the road and see someone with like a rock t-shirt on just on any given day, right? How many other genres of music can you say that for? None. Pretty much. Well, not none, but, you know, less so in other genres. And I really do feel that there has been like a just great business practice in the field of rock just for a very, very long time, for as long as I can remember. And so I wouldn't disagree with that at all. And if you think, you know, the other business opportunities explored by rock musicians or their teams and management, they really do put in a lot of effort that, to be honest, has only caught on relatively recently from other people, and like cultural things as well. So even back in the day, like there was a strong kind of that people would build their brand of artists in a very distinct way, right? And that was very prominent in rock from the jump, right? From the jump, it's like we're not just building up the music, we're building up the brand, we're building up the person behind it. And that started to spill into other genres and spaces. Like back in the day, it would be, you know, the tattoos and the lifestyle and the jewelry and the flashy stuff, and then other kind of niches started to pick up on that, like, you know, hip hop and trap and all these other things started to take from rock and metal and just take these things from there, and you know, the heavy guitar sounds, like even, you know, pop started to take from there and take from there, and it really just was pioneering. Like a lot of the kind of early rock stuff paved the way for a lot of the modern pop stuff.
Yeah.
To be honest, if we're very honest with ourselves, like if you listen to some of the early noughties pop, there's lots of rock influence in there, right? Because it's sold, you know, lots of artists that were influenced by the rock space, like even people like Lil Wayne. I say he's one of the biggest people outside of the rock genre influenced by the rock genre in modern times. Like lots. They really did pave the way for like good business practice. So I'd say, yeah, definitely rock musicians are business minded.
You make a solid point too. Like rock may not be in vogue right now, but sort of like what we mentioned earlier about the tortoise and the hare. If pop so much has rested on its laurels and lost momentum, rock would be the tortoise that would take it right over, I think, because it's very well positioned to be able to do that. You know, rock didn't stop because pop became top 40 and is dominating the top 40. Not at all. Look at Frontiers Records and what they're up to. I think it's Frontiers SLR. You know, they've been bringing all kinds of artists back. They've represented Harum Scarum and Def Leppard and Rick Springfield, and they managed to create a reunion with Dan Reed Network. So rock is there. It's alive and well. Look at Rock Legends Cruise, right? People love this stuff. They will go out there and support their favorite artists. And, you know, even bands that didn't originally have a chance back in like the 80s or 90s for whatever reason, bands like King's X are now known and appreciated by way more people because of this Rock Legends Cruise and other events like that, which is really amazing to see. And I think it's very gratifying for those bands as well to, you know, they're getting into their 60s, 70s at this point, but even where they are right now, I'm sure it's gratifying to know that like they have a fan base that appreciates them. And like one of the key figures in music business is Gene Simmons, right? And I think the impression is that he's the only one that's like that. But that's just because he's always cutting new deals and always looking for deals to create in his life. It's not because other artists aren't equally business minded. It's because Gene Simmons is he does it in the most overt sort of way. And by the way, if you're a music entrepreneur, I'm making a kind of a bold statement. If you haven't read Gene Simmons' Sex, Money, Kiss yet, you have to. You just have to. And I'm not here to sell that book or anything. I just think if you're a music entrepreneur, that is required reading. And, you know, you'll have to separate the wheat from the chaff, take the good with the bad. You're not going to agree with everything he says, period. Especially if you're sensitive in any way to gender roles and things like that. But we all know that about Gene Simmons already, so it's not going to come as a shock. Let me just put it that way. It's a great book. And I think it's one of those required reads for music entrepreneurs.
You're not going to sell it, but sell. Shouldn't hurt to sell. So
no.
If you're not going to sell it, I'll sell it on your behalf.
Oh, thank you.
Buy it. Link below.
It'll be we're going to put it in the show notes no matter what, right? That's what it looks like to add value to our audience. So it's going there. It'll be there.
Yeah.
But but that's what I wanted to say about that. Is there anything you like to add?
No.
No. The other thing we've been keeping an eye on that's kind of interesting is the fastest growing industries in the US for 2022. And it's so funny to watch this, right? What's been happening is there's been a huge rise. Like the top 10 is like movie theaters, concert and event promotions. So that's number 2. International airlines, travel insurance, travel industry agencies, airports, water parks, hotels, and then musical groups and artists in number 10. So I don't think this is necessarily indicative of like, oh, these are happy times to be an artist. I think what it is, we're sort of slowly trying to navigate our way out of lockdown. Concerts are gradually coming back. Travel is gradually coming back. And that's why we're seeing this rise. So it's probably just playing catch up. I don't think it's painting a rosy future for all of us, but it's still kind of nice to see.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I literally, when I saw that list, I literally thought the industries arguably most affected by this pandemic are going to be the fastest growing ones because they've dropped low enough that even going back to their rates pre-pandemic will probably be a significant kind of growth from where they are right now. And then also when you've kind of gone quite low down, you got more upsides to reach. So that's probably why they're going to be quite high growth now. And yes. I also believe people are going to miss these things to a point where it's going to have an influx. And even if it's not in volume, it might be in price, So because it's being locked down, and some people need, you need to make your profits up again. So things that may have cost less might cost more to do, but people will be happy to pay that premium on it because of the absence of it for such a prolonged period of time due to this pandemic. And that's what I think is going to, cause the growth, these industries to be the highest growing industries in this time because, it's still kind of unpredictable times, but hopefully it's going in a better direction and we're not going backwards. So we'll see. We'll definitely see.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of pent up energy right now. And that's why people are starting to look to these things for a little bit of escape, a little bit of comfort, some fun in their lives, which makes a lot of sense. I'm just surprised to not see industries like AI, right? Cloud computing, big data, and especially pharmaceutical. I think though there's no way those industries haven't grown by leaps and bounds in the last year and a half since the whole pandemic started, right? Yeah. So I'm kind of surprised, but maybe they're not growing at a rate of 30% to like, what was it, 120% with 140% with movie theaters. So maybe it's not growing at that rate.
Because thank you, Spider-Man. Thank you, Matrix. And thank you, Venom.
Yes.
Those are the ones to thank for that. But yeah, those ones that you mentioned, those industries are probably 11, 12, and 13, to be honest. So
yeah, probably.
I'm sure they're not too far off down the list. But yeah, like it doesn't surprise me at all, really, the growth. And I'm sure it will just kind of continue in the right direction. I hope so.
And I liked Matrix, by the way. I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone. I think the critics, as well as a lot of people who see it, are going to focus on the wrong things and not enjoy it. So unfortunately, it is one of those sort of controversial movies. But for me, it was entertaining. It was refreshing for the Matrix. And it also left a message that I feel like is pretty valuable right now. Those are the things that most people are actually end up missing when they go and see it. They're just going to be like, oh, the effects are old. Actually, the Matrix was the one to first innovate those effects in the first place. So I think they have license to do with it whatever they want to do with it. And so it's just funny when there's that much of a gap between, right, the last sequel and now this reimagining sort of the Matrix. Even though you could call it canon, probably you could find a way for the story to fit in. But yeah, I think that distance between this latest installation and the sequel that was in the early 2000s, I want to say, is maybe have people forgetting what made it so great in the first place.
Yeah, I've not seen it yet. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah,
but I'm looking forward to seeing it.
good. Yeah, enjoy. And I hear a rumor that you wanted to call someone out on this episode. I'm being a little cheeky, of course, but
Cheeky indeed.
yeah. What did you have to say there, Wolf? Actually, the message is from both of us, but go ahead.
What? You're just throwing me under the bus like this. It's throwing me out. I don't know, but you're saying it like it's like I'm gonna throw some shade or something.
Yeah, no. This is not going to be anything crazy or controversial. No,
not at all. Not at all. Well, let's get right in there.
Yeah.
There's like I mentioned earlier, in the kind of music entrepreneurship space, there aren't many people in it. There's a few notable names, including, Rick Barker, Adam Ivy.
Yes.
Amari MC, few people. And I wanted to give a shout out, or call out, apparently it's a call out, to Rick Barker.
Yes.
Who, those who haven't heard of him, maybe they're living under a rock.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Rick Barker used to manage Taylor Swift, and he's currently, I'd say, if not the biggest, one of the biggest people in the music industry, music entrepreneurship niche, and he helps people to move forward in their music careers.
Yeah.
And I was just gonna put a stake in the ground and say, Rick Barker, if you hear this or if you're listening, come chat with us. We want you to chat with us, and so we can really lay it out on the table, raw and real, and have an open conversation about the current state of the music industry and what we think is going to move it forward, and how people like us, like you, are paving the way to help it get to where it should be, at least on an independent level, in terms of getting people kind of out of the rut or out of that kind of level where it's like, no progress, stagnation, of how do I even go beyond this plateau that I've reached so soon, So that's the call out. Rick Barker, we're calling you out to come say hi.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if anyone listens to his podcast or follows him on his platforms and you're listening to this, you type to him and you say, hey, David and Wolf, they're calling you out. You should actually go listen, and if you make that happen, if you hit him up, we might have something in store for you, something that you might like. We might. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We might. If it might. Emphasis on might.
Yeah. I don't know what Rick's most used social media platform is, but you know what? It was going to be part of my 30-day challenge course anyway. Reach out to Rick Barker and see if you can get a response. And it's not a failure if you don't. So try Facebook, try Twitter, try whatever. And if one of Rick Barker's people happens to be listening, make sure this message gets to him as well. And we look forward to a good friendly chat and hot debate. It's going to be a friendly chat for sure.
100%.
Awesome. Well, I think we've had a good chat here today, Wolf. And, is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
I'm here if you want to reach out. Just go through Gaki Music, gakimusic.com, contact, or email info@gakimusic.com.
Mm-hmm.
So GAKI Music. Yeah, it will be below anyway. You can read it.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes and everything else. So you can find me at Music Entrepreneur HQ, and I'm generally pretty easy to reach on Twitter and BitClout, which are kind of similar platforms. And so I don't know if everyone's using BitClout yet, but it sort of seems like the future of Twitter at this point. It's actually a really great platform. So I'm easy to reach on either of those. So we look forward to hearing your feedback on this episode, and that's how to reach us. So we had a lot of fun today. Thank you for joining us. and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Hey, it's David Andrew Wiebe to wrap up this episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. And I wanted to urge you to stay subscribed to this show. I know we're going down to a monthly format for a while, and that might be disappointing to some, but if you think of it like a Christmas present each month, wait on bated breath for each episode to come out, and the moment it publishes, open that present, consume it like you just paid $997 for it. You're going to get so much more out of every show and every word. And if you want to see more from us, show us that you care. Leave a rating and review for the show on iTunes, and share this episode with a friend who really needs it. There's bound to be someone you know who can benefit from this episode, so give the goodness away and be a leader in your world. Be someone who adds value to others. Thank you for listening. We love and appreciate you. So today I want to share something special with you. It's called the Great Gift Giveaway. You might recall that my friend Amos Bracewell has been on the show a couple of times, and most recently he shared about his new contest. Well, this contest is now live, and there are daily giveaways, weekly giveaways, other giveaways, some amazing opportunities to win access to my brand new Chord King course, vocal lessons with Jane Perrette, handmade soaps, and a lot more. So go to thegreatgiftgiveaway.com and sign up today. You'll have me to blame when you start winning great prizes. This has been episode 262 of the New Music Industry Podcast. I'm David Andrew Wiebe, and I look forward to seeing you on the stages of the world. Thanks for listening. The opening theme, closing theme, and closing segment ambient music was created by Brian Bob Young. If other music was used in this episode, it's credited in the show notes at musicentrepreneurhq.com. Please leave us a rating and review in iTunes to help us spread the word about the show.